Welcome to the Boneyard with Steve Robertson. As always, I am your good friend and host, Steve Robertson, here on the magnificent Monday edition of the Yard. Hope you guys had a great weekend. We did. It feels so good to win. It does. No matter the circumstances, no matter the opponent, it feels so good to win, especially to go on the road and pick up a road series victory against a top 15 opponent. That's a big deal. And we talked about it last Monday. As great as the previous week was, and we went 3-1 that week, you got to start stacking weeks. You get that South Carolina series win. As I shared on my show and in many other shows, I expected State to go win the series at Alabama. We did. We've improved our positioning. We still have a long way to go, but we have the schedule to get it done. We're going to talk about that on the show. We're going to recap the weekend. We're going to look at the weekend that was. But before we get too deep in everything else, man, there's so much that's going on in the world. Always seems to be. I'd like to take a little time, if we can, to speak about this Kyron Lacy situation. And many of you know former LSU wide receiver Kyron Lacy apparently committed suicide over the weekend. The first thing that I'm going to say, no matter the circumstances or what someone has done, suicide's never the answer. Let me take this time to always remind you, if you're considering hurting yourself or others, dial 988. It is a free call on your phone. If calling is not possible, you can text that same number and get help. We want you on this side of the grass. Even if you've made some mistakes, and Kyron Lacy, it appears he did. And a lot of these details are coming out. Don't really paint him in the best light. But that does not make his life any less valuable. And his life is not any more valuable because he could catch a football. But when people that are in a high-profile position ultimately take their lives, it's a cautionary tale to the rest of us. Many of us never will have the opportunity to play on the big stage. It doesn't matter if it's sports, business, music, whatever. And one of the reasons that we love sports and we love music is there are people that are capable of doing things that perhaps we're not. And so we kind of put them on a pedestal. Now, this week was supposed to be like a grand jury, meeting about the traffic issue, and he was alleged to have been speeding down a highway at a high rate of speed, and the accusations are that his actions were reckless and it led to the death of another person. And I think it's important that that person's name and life does not get lost in the discussion. The man that lost his life in that incident is a man by the name of Herman Hall of Thibodaux, Louisiana. And a lot of issues in all of this. And I think it's important to remember that Herman Hall, of course, was involved in this crash and died from injuries suffered in that crash. That's important to understand. Now, the allegations against Kyron Lacy, of course, is he didn't stop to render aid, that he didn't call emergency services or report his involvement in the crash. He just simply fled the scene. That's what's alleged. I don't know if any of that's true. I'm just telling you what has been reported by the print media about that incident. And so the weight of that is something that is difficult to carry. And of course, emotions run high. You've got a court case coming up. You've got an uncertain future. You're a guy that's expected to sign with a pro team, and that has been probably removed from the possibilities with these charges pending. Right? There are teams that would not have taken a chance on him. There are some other teams that may have taken a flyer late. He was a very talented young man. And reports have come out today that he was fleeing from police and that he died of a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Apparently there was an argument with some other people, and he pulled out a firearm, One report says that he actually fired the gun in the ground and then fled the scene, and the police were pursuing him. And I can essentially kind of connect the dots here. When you look at a scenario like you're already facing a very uncertain future, and the dreams that you had to play in pro football have probably been extinguished. And I'm sure you've had a lawyer and an agent like, hey, we'll get this resolved, we'll get it taken care of. And then you have another incident. And I can understand the hopelessness that a person may feel in that situation. And so I share that with all of you because there are no winners in any of this. Everybody lost. Everybody lost. Everybody that loved Herman Hall of Thibodaux, Louisiana, they've lost too. They've lost him forever. Christmas, Thanksgiving, Mardi Gras will never be the same. Kyron Lacey's family and teammates have lost. I read a very heart-wrenching post earlier today that someone shared of Malik Neighbors, basically pleading with Kyron Lacey. He goes, man, you know that I would have had you. And so I shared that, number one, to express love and sympathy for those who have lost loved ones throughout this entire chapter. And to remind you, too, that your life has value. No matter what you've done or you're alleged to have done, you still have value and people still love you. When you do something bad, and I can attest to this, there are some people that you love that you really try those relationships and they get frayed. It doesn't mean they're beyond repair. Don't make a permanent decision over a temporary consequence. And there are so many people out there that are looking for help, begging for help, and sometimes they don't know how to ask for help. And so don't be one of those people. And if you need some help asking for help, you hit up your good friend and host, and I'll help you as best I can with that. But I would rather get your message or get your phone call in the middle of the night than to read your obituary the next day. Your life has value. And I use my platform from time to time to remind people of that. And one of the things that I discovered early in recovery is that it is impossible to save the life of someone that doesn't value their life. Without fear, how do you save anybody? If there's no fear of consequences, there's no fear of eternal judgment, how do you save that person? It's almost impossible to do. There has to be a restoration of sanity in that respect, to understand that life has value. And at some point, all of us have been so down in the dumps, we did not see a path forward. And when that happens, you suit up, you show up, and you just put one foot in front of the other and do the next right thing. And then eventually, the path will reveal itself. And it may not be the path down the yellow brick road that we hoped it would be, but it is certainly better than the alternative. And again, my thoughts and prayers go out to Herman Hall, Kyron Lacey, and all that love them. Because, again, there's no winner here. Nobody has won anything. Everyone has lost. And if you made that decision yourself, everyone around you loses. Everyone. The pain does not disappear. It is simply transferred to the people that love you. There's some truth in that. I've been to, I think, 6 funerals in the last 8 months or thereabouts, and had the opportunity to see the anguish and the heartache and the questions in the hearts and minds and spirits of people that have lost loved ones due to suicide. And it's one of those things that stays with me. It does. It stays with me. And it is a reminder to me. I share with you guys just here recently. I went back home for the funeral of a guy that I admired, that we had a lot of mutual friends, and I went back down there, and I remember calling my bride after all that was over, and because one of the things that I want to tell you is that I won't ever do that to you. I won't do that to you. I might not take the trash out as often as you'd like, may not keep my office as clean as you like, but I won't ever put you through that. I won't ever put you in a scenario where you have to turn to our children and make those phone calls and have all of those well-wishers, well-intended, I can't even begin to imagine how exhausting that would be. And then when all of that's over, to have to come home to this big house and go lay in a bed, knowing that I'm never coming home. At some point that'll happen, but my goal and quest is that'll come by natural causes. But I share that with you because it's important. We have fun on this show. We talk about state sports, but I think it's important. Sometimes we hit a little bit of a pause button on that, and talk about some things that matter more in the grand scheme. And so again, 988, text or call today if you feel like it, you can't go on. There are resources and help that are available to you. Let's thank our friends at Bulldog Burger Company, longtime sponsors to this show. We love Bulldog Burger Company, and we have for a mighty long time. Bulldog Burger Company can kind of cure what ails you. One of the things that I love about it is that life is so full of choices. That's one thing I don't have to wonder about. I know exactly what's going to happen when I go to Bulldog Burger Company. I'm going to leave feeling better, completely nourished, and well cared for. Great food, great prices, great service, great atmosphere, great locations. You can't beat it. Bulldog Burger Company, outstanding place to go and break bread. Have the spring rolls as your appetizer. They'll make you and everybody around you better looking. In addition to that, get that chocolate shake to go. You can ride that ride home with a smile, but find your own favorites. I've got my favorites, and I've eaten everything on the menu. But go find your own favorites. It's not just a burger joint, even though it's kind of what they specialize in. And if you're a newbie, let me encourage you to start with the Bulldog. Okay, that's a great gateway burger to the Bulldog Burger Company experience. But then the next time you go, maybe branch out a little bit. Maybe walk on the wild side a little bit, and you can. 3 great locations to serve you: University Drive in Stark Vegas, Gloucester Street there in Tupelo, Lake Harbor Drive in the Ridge and Flowood area. We love Bulldog Burger Company, and they love you. I don't want to get too deep in the show, too, without congratulating our friend and colleague and former co-worker Robbie Falk and his family, the addition of a new baby girl. And Robbie shared it, so I'm not breaking any news. Robbie shared that. And here's the thing about every bit of that. Quite the contrast, right? Bringing new life into the world, man, is the greatest of things. And we wish the absolute best. They named her Lady. And so for Lady and Natty and Becky and Robbie, the Boneyard and everybody at genespage.com wishes them the absolute best. And just the most heartfelt congratulations, man. It's like, again, you guys, of Robbie. You don't always know Robbie, and I share that because there's things that we all deal with in life. And this is a great day. This is a celebration within the Mississippi State family. And I can tell you that I've checked with Robbie just about every week just to kind of see how Becky was doing. And just the smile on his face, right? Knowing that you're getting closer. Everything's going good, man. Everything's going great. And you know how it goes. I mean, you get to the end of it. You just hope that your mom and baby are doing great. And it appears that everybody is. And we love Robbie, and we wish him and his family the absolute best. And for all of you that have had new additions to your lives, we wish you the best too. I can share with you without any reservation, the greatest thing that has ever happened to me in my life is becoming a father. It is the absolute greatest thing. And I know Robbie and Becky probably felt the same way. It's like you love your child so much. And then the thought of them having a sibling to kind of navigate through life, the rest of their life as a best friend, to kind of grow up together, that is something that's very, very special. And again, heartfelt congratulations to everybody involved. And you never know where life's going to take you, but I can promise you this, that when you have children, you kind of always have cheerleaders. You always have people to tell you what to do, too. But becoming a parent is the greatest thing that has ever happened to me. Of course, you start ranking everything, right? I mean, I tell people all the time, the key to getting good-looking kids is to get the good-looking wife first. And I was able to do that. Huge moment in my life. But there is just something about seeing your child that changes something in you. It does. It makes you want to work harder. It makes you more protective. You know what I'm saying? I remember when we were bringing Ani home from the hospital way back in 95. I mean, I was just so incredibly aware of all the traffic around me. In the past, I would just, I'd just drive home. But you're driving home with that little bundle of joy in the back, and it's like, where all these lunatics come from? Why is everybody driving crazy today? It just makes you so incredibly protective. There's just some kind of primal instinct that comes up. And so, again, that's where we are. So let's kind of break down the series here. And again, I expected to win this series. And we did. And again, Mississippi State has kind of dominated Alabama here as of late. Alabama hadn't won a series against us since 2015. State for the last decade has pretty much dominated this thing. Chris Lamonis now 14-4 against Alabama during his tenure at Mississippi State. Arkansas has kind of had our number. We've had Alabama's. We'd like, no matter who we'd lose to, we wouldn't like it. But the reality of it is we'd like to be a little more competitive against Arkansas. And I'm sure Alabama folks feel the same way. It's like, what is it about Mississippi State? We just can't seem to get over it. And there's some truth in every bit of that, too. And so, big win on Friday, as you guys remember. And Jacob Bain made the trip with me. Jacob, of course, former high school football player. And loves baseball. But I enjoy talking about baseball. And one of the things that I explained to him is, as State began to get some separation in that game, I told him, I said, this may end up being like a mercy rule thing where State wins like 14-3, 15-3, something like that. It could get out of hand. I said, because on Friday, you don't want to burn any arms in a game you're not going to win. When a team begins to get separation, and you hate to call it a white flag, but you don't run premium arms out there just trying to lessen the margin of defeat. You stockpile those guys for later in the weekend. It's okay, well, this one's in the books, and so let's kind of just, save our premium arms for Saturday or Sunday, a game that we feel like we're going to win. But and I felt like after watching some Zane Adams stuff and getting some more information on him, I really thought we would be able to get to him, and we did. So let's take a quick look back at that game, and then we'll push ahead to the not as many highlights in games 2 and 3. Plenty of them in this one. But Garrick Fry, now 2 weeks as your left fielder, now leadoff hitter, and it's a bit of an adventure at times out there. As one of the guys on our message board said, we have the most exciting left fielder in all of college baseball. That may be true. But, we start out here. We get the fly out, and then Reeves singles to left. Reeves doubles to right center to drive in, and Sawyer, who started at short in place of Dylan Cupp throughout the weekend. And Reeves put together a really good weekend offensively and defensively. Sullivan then grounds out, and then Hines homers to right field, which breaks the tie between he and Will Clark. The only Bulldog left to chase is Rafael Palmeiro on the career home run record. So it is a 3-0 ball game right out of the chute. Zane Adams was down 4-0 in that ball game against Auburn, and then they had to go get him in the second, down 6-0. Pico did not have his best stuff, but I thought he really grinded it out. That's 2 weeks in a row. Pico was outstanding against LSU. But the last 2 weeks, even though we have won and been competitive in those games, we lose the South Carolina game on Friday. Pico, I thought, pitched well enough to win. We just couldn't get it enough going offensively. He didn't factor in the decision here, but went out there and just kind of grinded it out. He was about, I think, 52% strike ratio. That's tough, especially on Friday night. But he comes out here and he gets a one-out double against Justin LeBron, but he strikes out the side there. So nothing to do. And we did a really good job neutralizing Justin LeBron all weekend. He had one big swing in this ball game, but really didn't do much else the rest of the weekend. Kind of going back to that Ethan Petrie thing with South Carolina. It's like, make somebody else beat you. And we knew this Alabama lineup did not have a lot of length to it. We knew that we could get probably some quick innings in the bottom half of that order, and for the most part we did throughout the weekend. All right, top of second, State goes 1, 2, 3, bottom of second, and we get a little bit of a jam here. But Pico works his way through it. We get a ground out to open it, and then it's a full count walk, and then Fowler singles, another Mississippi native, singles to the right side. Now all of a sudden the Tide runs to plate, get a fly out, then we walk Neal to load the bases. We go out there and have the mound visit, and then Bonamalo, he of the Jazzercise slide step into the box, flies out to left field, and that's the inning. And those are the things, how many times this year, no matter who was on the mound, we get in those situations sometimes and we give up runs. Well, despite the fact that they had the bases loaded, they get nothing. And that's winning baseball. And again, I don't know what Justin Parker told him, but he goes out there and gets a one-pitch out. Bulldogs back on the sticks. We pick up another run here in the third, and it again opens up with Garrick Fry. Just kind of dumps one into center field. And I don't know if my belief is that he just simply read this wrong. I think he read downward angle on the pitch, read in the dirt and took off, and he's thrown out, and it's really not competitive. I mean, the ball never really gets away there. And then Reeves homers to left center. Now, you never know, right? You never know if the pitching sequence would have remained the same and if Reeves' approach would have remained the same, but if it feels like he kind of gave a run away. But Reeves, with first home run as a Bulldog, makes it 4-0, and then Reese and Sullivan are out to close out the top of third. Our bottom of third, LeBron doubles to right field. And you listen, the dude's a freak. He is. I wish we had him. I really do. And then lo and behold, Snell singles to the right side, who's been really good for them. State did a pretty good job against him, but good job here, situational hitting. Takes that ball to the right side, run comes around to score. And then Torres flies out to left. Hodo reaches on an error on Gowan Sanders, the only official error he's had in 73 chances. And again, a little bit of a jam here. And then Joe goes out and talks to Pico. He gets a one pitch fly out, and then gets Fowler to fly out to left. And so, again, we go out there and we kind of get together and we get it done. So they only get the one run there. Top of four, not much going for State here. We do get a 2-out single from Sanders, but that's really it. Bottom of four, it's you get the first two without any trouble, right? And then it's a triple. Bonamalo triples to right field. And this is the play. Nolan Stevens nearly pulls this thing off. And what an incredible effort by Nolan. And, he is given everything he has and just collides directly into that wall out there. And then the ball gets down, it's a triple. And, it's somewhat reminiscent to me of Bobby Thigpen crashing into the wall at Omaha. And then he makes sure he gets the ball to the cutoff man before he goes down, right? So Nolan crashes into the wall, doesn't make the catch, nearly does. It's nuts. And then he kind of flips the ball or redirects it to Bryce Chance, and Bryce is able to get that thing in to prevent it from being an inside-the-park home run. Now, ultimately, they end up scoring the run anyway. But that kind of effort has to be applauded. Tremendous effort from Nolan Stevens, number one, to make the catch, but then as he's kind of seeing stars out there, he still has the presence of mind to get that ball to Bryce to try to save a run. I love it. I do. And I hate that he was banged up. He stayed in the ball game, and it was really classy of the Alabama fans to give him the ovation they did. Of course, we were well represented too that night. But very, very, very scary situation there. He stays in the game, doesn't play the rest of the weekend, but he did stay in the game. And then on an 0-1 count, LeBron homers to right center. And what's interesting, a lot of people said, we should have walked him. We should have walked him with the base open. Well, Snell's a guy that's hit the ball pretty well too. And I don't know that I walk him in this situation, but I'm probably not giving him much to hit in this situation. And with a 3-run lead, I'm going to be aggressive on the mound, especially when I got a pitcher that maybe doesn't have the best of command on the night. But Justin LeBron's a good bad ball hitter too, and he gets us. And then Snell grounds out to second on a 3-0 count. And again, so many deep counts early in this ball game for Pico. So it's now a 4-3 ball game, and Mississippi State did what good teams do. We answer right back. Joe Powell, who is absolutely red hot these days. Powell singles to center. They go out and have a little chat, and then Fry doubles to right center. Powell stops at third. So automatically the 2 runs that they picked up to kind of get back in the ballgame are already in scoring position with no outs. And then Reeves rips one down the left field line. Both runs score. It's 6-3, so we're right back where we started. That's it for Zane Adams. They bring in Blackwood. And then Ace Reese just absolutely murders the ball back up the middle. Friday night, Ace Reese's exit velo was ridiculous. Noah Sullivan then doubles to center off the wall out there. I thought that ball had a chance to get out. And Reese kind of stumbles a little bit getting around second, but makes it to third. So again, we've already put those runs in. And now all of a sudden, after Reeves scores, Sullivan has doubled, so now all of a sudden, they're again 2 men in scoring position and still nobody out. Hines strikes out swinging, and that's a big at-bat there. We need him to come through. However, he gets picked up by Bryce Chance, who doubles down the left field line to drive in both runs, makes it a 9-3 ball game. That's it for Blackwood. They bring in Buchanan, and then he walks Sanders. And Gat's been pretty good at that too. Gat's got a good eye at the plate. Stevens strikes out swinging, and the fact that he was still in the ballgame was, again, a testament to him and his own toughness. And then Joe Powell. And I joked with him in postgame. I said, Joe, you don't get to hit very often twice in an inning, but when you do, you get 2 hits. And, of course, he thought that was funny. And then Joe doubles to right center, and that chases in 2 more runs. Makes it 11-3. And at this point, as well as I do, Alabama's pitching coach, Jason Jackson's like, we're about to check out of this. We're about to go ahead and check out of this. Fry grounds out to the pitcher. But it's 11-3 ball game now, heading to the bottom of 5. Stone Simmons comes in, who is born again hard as a reliever. He's really done a nice job as a long reliever. He goes a 1-2-3 inning here. And that's what you want after the big inning, right? You need a clean inning, and we get it. Top of 6, State right back out there. Reeves pops up to second, and then again, right back up the middle, Ace Reese just murdering the baseball. Sullivan then singles to center. Rice stops there. So, again, a chance for us. They bring in Aiden Moza, and it's kind of a sad story. Really, it is. When Aiden Moza got to Alabama, people were kind of expecting him to be a dude. And he's averaging like a wild pitch per inning. He's the mop-up guy now, and you hate that. I think going into this, he had thrown 5 1/3 innings. And this is a guy 2 years ago they thought was going to be a weekend starter. And now here he is in 11-3 ball game on Friday night, just trying to get it over with. Well, he walks Hunter Hines here to load the bases. A chance for us, again, to kind of put this thing away. And then Chance grounds into a double play. And it really looked like for a second there that ball may get through, but Justin LeBron's like, nope, I'll take that. Grabs it, steps on the bag, throws to first. 11-3. So that's your inning. So, again, we miss an opportunity there to really expand. And you want every opportunity, you want to take advantage of it, but it's not realistic, but you can never accept that. When you're up there at the plate, you can never feel like you got enough runs. This is an Alabama team that was down 10-0 in the 4th against Ohio State and came back to win a game, right? And especially a home game like that, you just simply cannot allow them to get any juice. All right, Stallman comes in for Stevens, and Fowler then singles up the middle. Norton strikes out swinging. Neal flies out, and then Bonamalo hits one deep into the 6 hole. Ace can't quite cut it off. Sawyer gets it, but there's no play to be made. And then Stone gets LeBron to strike out swinging on an absolute filthy changeup. He really had that changeup working well. It's pretty nuts when you look. Guys, the last time that Stone Simmons gave up an earned run was against Oklahoma State. He's given up 1 run since then against Oklahoma, and it was unearned. Again, we start talking about defining roles and settling a lineup and settling a bullpen. Stone's a big part of that. All right, top of 7. And again, State right back on the sticks here. And listen, you can never have enough, but it really felt like we kind of let them off the hook a little bit here. Sanders strikes out swinging on a 2-2 count, and Installment's hit by the pitch on a 3-0 count. He goes to second on a wild pitch. So we got another run there in scoring position, less than 2 outs. And then Joe, who's been really good for us, strikes out swinging. I thought he swung at ball 4, but in the at-bat, he ends up taking third. And then Fry walks. So again, you got runners on the corners. They bring in Bo Bryans, and he's able to oh, yeah, this is that silly play. Yeah, so Reeves singles to right, and so Stallman scores, and then, we're trying to get the game over. And I know some people are all upset with Cheese here. I probably would have held him too, right? I probably would have held him as well. But you send him and you're trying to get it over because all of a sudden, if you score here, and they had to make a good play, they did. And he was out considerably. I'm not in any way just, I'm just kind of explaining my thought process. If they don't throw it home and you get a tag there, the 10-run rule is there. You just got to go get 3 outs so you don't have to play the 8th. So I understand it. You're trying to be aggressive. It's not going to cost you a ball game, and you probably don't send them in a 1-run game. But in this scenario here, I kind of get it. But, yeah, it was not close. All right, bottom of 7. 1 out single to Torres, and there's a fielder's choice as we force him there. And that initially called it a double play. And then they came back and no. Let's review this. And then, Staten gets a bunt down. And, it's all just kind of rolling along here. Then Fowler grounds out. It's 12-3. Top 8, we finally get the run to enact a mercy ruling here. And, again, good job by Bryce Chance. Good situational hitting. He had a couple of opportunities this weekend where he didn't come through. He does here. Reese flies out to left. Sullivan is walked. And then Hines singles to left center. And Sullivan scoots around to third. And Bryce Chance, long fly ball to right field. Sac fly gets a run home, makes it 13-3. Sanders goes down swinging. Bottom of 8, they pinch hit here. They get a single. And then we get a strikeout swinging. Reach on the fielder's choice. They force the runner at second. And then, lo and behold, it's Stone striking out Justin LeBron again on a changeup. And the thing that I loved about this, Stone Simmons did what all veteran pitchers and even younger pitchers, and if you're a younger pitcher, listen to me here. When you're up big, just pound the zone. If they get a hit, they get a hit. They're not going to get enough hits to get back in the ballgame. However, if you start walking people, defense goes to sleep, you start all these hit by pitches, it can snowball on you. You just pound the zone because you got 8 other guys out there with gloves on that can make plays for you. It's hard to hit a baseball. Make them hit the baseball. It's hard to hit line drives. Make them hit line drives. Because even if they do get contact, chances are there's almost a 1 in 3 chance it's going to be a ground ball or a pop-up, right? And so every so often somebody will smash something. But when you have a commanding lead, do not go out there and walk people. You go out there and pound the zone. Do what Stone Simmons did. And again, great job by Stone. Again, saving arms, right? I mean, just you know it's going to be a war of a weekend in the SEC. You got to go all in to win a Friday night game, but thankfully the offense shows up, pounds out 17 hits in this ball game, gives you all the separation you need. And your hitting hero, it's Sawyer Reeves. Without any question. Matter of fact, let's just go ahead and announce our player of the weekend, courtesy of closewithblair.com. You guys know Blair. Blair is my friend, your friend, our collective friend in the mortgage industry. I have no hesitation whatsoever with our player of the weekend to be Sawyer Reeves, who goes 6 for 12 with 6 RBI and errorless baseball. Our runner-up would probably be Garrick Fry, who goes 7 of 15 and scores 5 runs in a ball game. But listen, Blair, let me give you his phone number. You need it. Blair Chandler's number is 601-500-2344. 601-500-2344. 24 years of experience in the mortgage industry, and Blair is a guy that can get things done when so many other people can't. You don't stay in an industry like that for 20-plus years by accident. You have to be closing, because coffee is for closers. That's why Blair's always so wired when you see him, because he's always getting coffee for closing and then a loan. So whether it's your first home, your next home, or your retirement home, look no further than Blair Chandler at closewithblair.com for all your mortgage needs. even if you're looking to refi everything. And listen, get that pre-qualification letter. You'll be glad you did. It's one of those hacks in life they don't tell you when you're young. Get a pre-qualification letter so you know exactly what you're looking for. You don't want to shop above your means, and you certainly don't want to buy above your means. Doesn't matter how nice your home is when you have to spend all time working overtime to pay for it, you can't enjoy it. So make sure that you get with Blair and kind of get pre-qualified. Again, that's closeatblair.com. But Garrick Fry, huge weekend from Mississippi State. I think only Sawyer Reeves is the guy you look at and say, hey, and it could have been any number of guys, but guys, in his first start at shortstop for Mississippi State, Sawyer Reeves goes 4 for 5, scores 3 runs, and drives in 4. Absolutely outstanding. And nearly drove in 5, right? Great performance. And I don't think anybody really expected that. Dylan Cuff's been booting their ball around a little bit, but Dylan's a Bulldog. We love Dylan. Dylan's one of our guys, for sure. One of our guys. And we're going to need him to make plays for us and get on base for us. As you know, over the course of a season, there's a lot of moving around. Sometimes you got to push the right buttons. You remember in 2021, we had to sit Scotty DeBrule for a little while too, and in place of Tanner Leggett. And Tanner Leggett played in place of him. Tanner ended up playing at short, at third, and at second at some point. And then who's the guy that gets rewarded with one of the biggest hits in the history of the program? It's Tanner Leggett in Omaha to beat Texas to drive us to the College World Series final against Vanderbilt. You need guys like that, but you're going to move guys around at times. I mean, I remember a few years ago we couldn't settle on a center fielder. It took us forever. But that's part of the gig. But Sawyer Reeves, your close with Blair, player of the weekend. So, again, Sawyer Reeves, big ball game for him, but it was really up and down the order, man. And it's like so many of these guys had multi-hits. I mean, we talk about, top half of the order. Everybody in the top 5 had multiple hits in that Friday game. Fry with 2, Reeves, of course, with 4, Ace Reese with 3, Noah Sullivan with 2, Hunter Hines with 2, and then Bryce and Gatlin both get 1, and Joe gets 2. I mean, the only guy that didn't was Nolan Stevens, who had a couple of good at-bats, and, of course, he goes crashing into the right field wall trying to make a play for you and for his team. So 8 of 9 starters get a hit, and then, of course, Stallman comes in place of Stevens and gets the hit by pitch. So all 9 spots ultimately reach base in the ball game. And again, Pico, 4 innings, 6 hits, 3 runs, a couple walks, 73 pitches, and 3 strikeouts. But it was not one of his better games. And Stone gives up 5 hits, but they're scattered, right? He doesn't walk anybody, doesn't allow a run, 5 strikeouts. Very good effort for him. And, when it's all said and done, he is credited with the win, which makes him now 3-1 on the season. So now let's go to game number 2. Didn't go quite the way we wanted. And, again, it's one of these things, we talk about it, and it's happened to us multiple times this year. When you score early, like we did at Oklahoma, and then you don't score the final 8 innings of a game, you generally get beat. And that's what happens here. We score 1 here in the first, and then we had 9 hits in the ball game. And there were so many opportunities for us to do some good things here. And listen, Riley Quick I thought was really good. But there's some things we could do better. And that's the thing. You got to learn from this in the loss. But, Fry, Loapo Taco there in the first AB there, they keep trying to work Fry away, and he keeps beating them. And he's going to kind of change his scout a little bit. Even in Game 3, that was one thing. They tried to kind of feather that changeup away, and he pokes it the other way. He also shows that he has some power the other way. If you remember his first starting opportunity at Mississippi State, he hits a home run in his first at-bat. Same thing happens here. And, the at-bat was kind of funky, I guess. It's the first one anyway. But, you get a ball down here, ball up there. You take a strike, and the first pitch you swing at gets over the fence to give your team a 1-0 lead. And it really felt like maybe we were going to be okay here. Reeves hits the ball hard but grounds out to third. And then Ace with a single to the right side. Sullivan grounds out to short here. And they force he rounds out. They couldn't get a double play, and so Ace takes second. And then Hines strikes out swinging. And they had that cutter working big time against our lefties. That cut fastball from the right-hander that's throwing 97, 98, and he's mixing in that cutter. It's tough because all of a sudden you think you got a fastball, and all the next thing you know, it's running in on you. And so there was a lot of that. But 1-0, and we felt like, okay, we're good. And I thought Evan Sierra came out, again, gave us a good outing. And again, he's probably 2 times through the order, but gives up a single, infield single here. And we thought we had him thrown out. I still think we did. I don't think there was enough evidence to overturn it. They initially, they called him safe. But yeah, they called him safe, saying that Hines was off the bag. But I don't believe that was true. And there certainly wasn't enough video evidence to overturn it. LeBron then reaches on a fielder's choice. Snell singles to left. It gets LeBron around the third, and you think, okay, this is it. We need a non-productive out here, and we get it. As Sierra gets Torres to strike out swinging. And then Fowler grounds out. And so, again, you've got the tying run at third with less than 2 outs. You got to find a way to avoid that. And Sierra bows his back and is able to get out of there and keep the lead. State goes 1-2-3 there in the second. Alabama right back out there. And then this is not winning baseball. We talk about runner at third, less than 2 outs. You get a punch out and then a ground out. That's winning baseball. You don't come out and walk the first 2 hitters and live to tell about it. Joe goes out to talk to him, but the next thing you know, it's a fly out. Runner tags, takes third. So now again, you've got a runner at third and less than 2 outs. And you get the non-productive out. You get Young to strike out swinging. Lengthy at bat there, but you win the war. Now you're 1 pitch away from getting out of this thing. And you get ahead 0-1 on Bonamalo. And what happens? He pulls one inside the bag at third and 2 runs score. And so again, you're a pitch away from getting out of this thing, but it's the chickens that come home to roost. You lead off an inning walking the first 2 guys, good chance somebody's going to score. And they do here. And again, it's so unfortunate because he battled, and he's able to get Young to give you that non-productive out. I mean, it's anything other than a punch out or a double play ball here, you feel like you've done your job. And Sierra's able to beat Young. But Bonamalo, he gets us. Then LeBron flies out to center. So we kind of keep it where it is at 2-1. And then Joe Powell singles to open the third. And crazy play here, right? Fry squares to bunt. And the ball comes up and in. He's trying to get out of the way of it. And it hits the bat and goes back to the mound, and they're able to force the runner at second. Like, it's just kind of an unfortunate thing. It's not always anybody's fault. There's a part of you think, man, if Fry just takes that thing and wears it. But, man, when you're in that position, you're vulnerable, you're just going into self-preservation mode. Just kind of bad luck. Reeves then singles to third base, and Fry takes the second. So, again, runners at first and second here, and we need Ace to come through. He gets down 0-2 in the count, works it back to an 0-2 count, and then ultimately strikes out looking. I thought it was a really bad call, too. I think it's probably maybe a ball and a half off the plate. I thought it was bad. And Ace is one of those guys, too. Usually when Ace gets fooled on a pitch, he'll just turn around and walk to the dugout. Like if they catch him looking and he's like, I'm looking breaking ball here and they throw a fastball by me, you don't see Ace get emotional and have these demonstrative responses at the plate. You just don't see it. And his reaction kind of matched how I felt too. I thought that ball was off the plate. And then Sullivan strikes out swinging. And Noah didn't have a great weekend. And this is a situation here we'd like for him to come through for us, but did come through in some other opportunities. But we get a full count there, and we go down swinging. So again, tying run in scoring position, we weren't able to get it done. Bottom of 3, Sierra gets a fly out and then gets a 1-out single from Torres, and it's a fly out, and then Hodu singles through the right side. Not a lot of hits from Will either. And then we battle back again with the runner in scoring position, and Sierra gets Mizell to strike out swinging. So traffic on the bases, but Sierra's just kind of unyielding, right? He kind of really competes. Top of 4, State goes 1-2-3. Bottom of 4, Sierra gets a 1-2-3 inning and gets Bonamalo to strike out looking to end the frame there. And so you feel pretty good about kind of where you are. And you feel like maybe you've gotten all you could get out of Evan Sierra. We stretched him a bit against South Carolina, and he gives up a couple of home runs. So you feel like if he gives you 4, you turn it over to the bullpen, and only having to use one bullpen arm on Friday, you've got the full complement of the bullpen available. Need to get some runs, though. Top of 5. Stallman strikes out swinging. Powell flies out to center, and then Fry doubles down the right field line. So again, the tying run in scoring position. And then Sawyer ends up rolling over one to second. So again, runner in scoring position, and we can't advance him. Yes, it would have required a 2-out rally, but again, that's kind of the story of this ball game. Big Ben Davis comes in there in the 5th. He gets a 1-2-3 inning, including a ground out to LeBron to open the inning. And again, he didn't do much against us. Top of 6, again, State with another opportunity here. Reese flies out to right, and then Sullivan doubles to right center. And we feel like, hey, here we are. We're fixing to get even. Hunter Hines, they bring in Connor Lehman, the lefty, freshman lefty, and I admired that. I mean, hey, if he's a matchup guy, he's a matchup guy, right? And he's not going to get any better if he doesn't get high leverage opportunities. And so he goes out there, and fortunately, Hines, for Mississippi State, takes that pitch away, because everybody's going to work away, lefty, right? And Hines just kind of dumps it into left field and allows Sullivan to go to third. So now you got runners at first and third, less than 2 outs. A routine fly ball to right is going to tie the game. A base hit, who knows, right? Instead, it's a ground ball double play. And that's the second time on the weekend that's happened. So Bryce, who was my player to watch in this series, grounds into a double play here. So it's 2-1. So again, another missed opportunity for Mississippi State, and give them some credit too for making the pitches to getting under barrels. Bottom of 6, they go 1-2-3, and Big Ben just kind of rolling here. Top of 7, State gets 2 quick outs, and then they walk Powell, and Fry flies out. So the 2-out walk doesn't come back to bite. 2-out walks are of the devil. And then here in the 7th, we had every opportunity, again, to kind of get even or get ahead. And I felt like if we could ever get ahead, we could probably stay ahead. They finally break through. And you let teams hang around like this, and you keep letting them off the hook, it comes back to bite you. They open up. Neal, one of the few hits he's had this year, doubles to left field. And he was the guy some of you guys wanted from LSU. And I think when he got that bunt down on Sunday, I think he's hitting a $190. Young then singles. He's trying to get the bunt down, right? And it's a sacrifice all the way. And it's a near perfect bunt, and we don't field it and make a play. So now all of a sudden they're runners on the corners, and that's what happens. It's like you miss a scoring opportunity, and then you give them one. The baseball gods are always watching. And then Bonamalo flies out to left. Runner tags and scores, and then LeBron singles to center. That we hold everybody together there. Snell then flies out, and then Torres, a guy that didn't do a lot against us either, comes through with a clutch 2-out hit there to chase home the run to make it a 4-1 ball game. We get Fowler to ground out to second. And State goes, we get a 1-out single from Ace back up the middle, and then Sullivan grounds into a double play. Noah had some big opportunities in this weekend. Came through at times, other times he didn't, and that's the game. But that was an opportunity for us to maybe do something there, and we couldn't get it done. Bottom of 8, they go 1-2-3. Top of 9, they bring in Osmer, Carson Osmer, and of course he's kind of unorthodox in his delivery, and he's a guy that struggles at times with left-handers. And that's part of the thinking here. A lot of people were kind of questioning this. I kind of question his selection a little bit too, and I got a little insight later. But Hines is hit by the first pitch, and it was not close. And we elect to pinch hit Spalletta for Chance. Now, a lot of people would say, well, why didn't we pinch hit Nolan Stevens here? Well, after the collision Friday night, I know if we had said Nolan, would you go? He would have. But it probably wasn't the right decision. We put Spalletta in there, and then he hits a ground ball. They can't turn 2, but you needed to kind of advance the inning. Gat Sanders, another left-hander, singles to center. Spalletta then goes to second. Stallman, another left-hander, grounds out to second. However, we're able to advance the runners around there. And then O'Brien comes in and flies out to short, another left-hander. And so basically, I mean, you're just throwing everything against the wall trying to make things happen. It doesn't work out. But let's be honest about that. We didn't lose this game in the ninth. We lost this game having multiple opportunities with runners in scoring position, and we just simply couldn't get the base hit. And give Riley Quigg some credit, but the reality of it is Mississippi State really was kind of conspirators in their own demise. We just had some things that didn't go our way. State with 9 hits in the ballgame. Alabama, 9 hits in the ballgame. And so it wasn't like we got out hit. We might have gotten out pitched a little bit, but I thought Sierra went out there and did a good job, and Ben Davis as well. But the two combined over 8 innings, 4 apiece, allowed 9 hits, 4 runs, all 4 of them earned, strikeouts 6, and walked 2. And maybe the Sierra-Ben Davis combo is the way to go. But, Alabama ended up using some guys they ended up having to bring back on Sunday. But Riley Quigg credited with the win, Sierra tagged with the loss. And so then we go to the rubber game on Sunday. And, many of you were getting home from church. You turn it on and you expect to see a church league softball type thing. And what do you know? Basically, a Friday night pitching duel popped up. Was not expecting this game to be as low scoring as it was. But give the Bulldogs credit. It's so important on Sundays to get a good start, right? Because the sooner you can get into that bullpen, the better off you're going to be. They started Taylor Fay, the first start of his collegiate career, but he has been one of their primary relievers. He's no stranger to big moments in the SEC. But Fry singles to left, and then Sawyer Reeves just absolutely crushes the ball to left. So right out of the gate, it's 2-0. And I don't care who you are or where you're from. The Sunday pitching plan in the SEC is always so precarious, right? You think, okay, if this guy can give us 3 or 4 and get out of there with the lead, then we'll pass the baton to this guy. Maybe he can go 2 innings. And then all of a sudden, you see this guy starting getting shelled. They already got Vinatieri up. I mean, as soon as this ball left the yard, they had Adam Vinatieri up. Now, turns out they didn't need him, but again, great start for State just to kind of get things going, and State goes in order after that. But you feel good. Ligon comes out, very first hitter, he gets behind and then works the way back and gets a fly out to center on a full count. We get LeBron to fly out, Snell flies out to left, so 1-2-3 inning for Ligon. Bulldogs then go 1-2-3 there in the second. We get to bottom of second, Hodo with a 2-out double to right center. And then he takes third on a wild pitch. And this is where you start thinking, okay, here it goes. Here's where it unravels. However, we're able to roll up a ground ball to short and get out of it. State maintains a 2-0 lead. And then State goes 1-2-3. So give Young Fay a little credit for settling down after that first inning trouble. Bottom of 3, leadoff walk. And so this is where I said, this is where it's unraveling. There's always that come apart inning. And you got to minimize damage. Because at some point, there's going to be things happening in the ball game that aren't good for you. This is one of them. We walk Neal, the 8-hole hitter, the catcher that really struggles to swing the bat. And then Young is just trying to get a bunt down. And what's crazy about that is we have a pass ball. So now all of a sudden the need for the bunt is negated, but you got a young hitter up there. So now you got a runner at second, nobody out. And what do you know? They sacrifice him at third. Good job there. So now all of a sudden, Bonamalo gets to hit with a runner at third and just one down. And he does a job. Flies out to center field, runner tags and scores. In the middle of all of this with LeBron, we end up with a 3-man crew. Sweeney got absolutely smacked in the face on a foul ball. And we end up having a delay, ran about 15 minutes. And then we ultimately get LeBron to strike out swinging. But again, there you are, right? You walk him, you give a pass ball, and then basically give him the opportunity to come all the way around to third without the benefit of an out until you get that sac bunt. So they get 2 bases in exchange for the 1 out. It should have been 1. And those things matter. All right, top of 4. State gets a 1-out walk to Sullivan, and then Heiberger comes in for Fay, and he's able to get Hines to ground into a double play on the very first pitch. All right, bottom of 4, Alabama goes 1-2-3. Again, Ligon just kind of moving along here. And it's like you're like me, right? It kind of reminds me, like at 21, there were some starters. It's like, hey, if we can get out of this thing, with the lead or even in the fourth or fifth inning and turn it over the bullpen, I like our prospects of winning. That's how it feels at times with Ligon. But in his last 2 starts, he's allowed 2 hits. 2 hits. All right, top of 5th. AD flies out to right. Stallman goes down swinging. We end up making a ground ball here. They call Sanders out at first. However, we challenge, and it's overturned. We want to challenge there. And then Powell goes down looking. Bottom of 5. And this, again, it looked like it was going to be like one of these come-apart innings, but it wasn't, right? And Chase Hungate comes in and is absolutely filthy. Lead-off walk, and we go ahead and pull him, right? And that's what we were thinking. If we can get Ligon to get us 4, and on the row, Bain and I were talking. I was like, hey, considering how efficiently he got through the 4th inning, I'm going to give him 1 in the 5th. Because if he can get in the 5th and maybe get a 1-2-3 inning, then that saves you an inning in the bullpen. And lo and behold, he goes out and he walks leadoff hitter. Full count, but he walks him. And we bring in Chase Hungate. And he gets Staten to go down swinging. And then there's the bunt against the shift, right? The only hit that the bullpen gave up on Sunday. Neal, again, the 8-hole hitter, the catcher that struggles to handle the bat. And I don't know why we're shifting with 1 strike. I need to ask about that. We did that a lot. But we bring Ace around to basically play short field, and he bunts it the other way, and so runner goes to second. So now you've got trouble. And then there's a wild pitch. Now there's runners second, third. However, Chase Hungate, the veteran, gets Young, the 9-hole hitter, to strike out looking. And you got to think right there, ground ball to second gets the job done. Routine fly ball to left gets job done. But you get a strikeout looking. You get ahead 0-2 here swinging on just some absolute filth. And he won't chase, but you eventually get him looking. Hungate was so good. And then he gets Bonamalo to strike out swinging. And Bonamalo is a guy in these RBI situations with 2 outs has been a bit of a problem for us. But we get him swinging too. And that slider was absolutely nasty. So again, a chance to come apart there. But, bow in the back by Chase Hungate. Top of 6. We get a 1-out walk to Reeves, and he takes second on a wild pitch. They ultimately walk Ace Reese, change pitchers, and then here we are again, right? Sullivan strikes out looking, and listen, here's my complaint about this AB. I love Noah Sullivan. He is one of the best players on our team. I'm in no way being critical of him as a player, but in this instance right here, it's a 2-1 ball game. I need him to walk up there as our cleanup hitter looking to do damage. And he didn't swing the bat, right? It's not just enough just to, get on base. I think you got to go out there and be aggressive. And we took a pitch that I thought was a borderline pitch, but it's probably too close to take. He didn't like the call. I didn't like it either. But I think in a pitch like that, you got to swing and at least try to spoil the pitch there. We don't. And then they walk Hunter Hines. Bases loaded. Again, a situation for State to expand here, and we don't. Aaron Downs gets it down here. And what's interesting here about this in hindsight, right? In hindsight, the third baseman made a mistake and we didn't make him pay for it. Okay? So he fields it. And rather than go to the bag or throw it across the diamond, he elects to kind of tag Ace Reese. Ace has got to have the presence of mind there to back up there. Don't run into the tag. Because if that run because it's not a force play, if Ace evades a tag long enough for the run to score, it counts. And so that's a little small thing in baseball, but Ace has got to know in that situation, a ground ball hit right to them, have the presence of mind to just back up, kind of back up slowly back towards second base and pull the guy with you, right? Because at this point, you're not going to get the guy at first. When you turn, try to tag the guy at third, you're going to go chase him. And then some guys will panic and they're like, oh, smokes, man, I got to throw a guy out. And then he goes to throw to first, and then the throw's not in time. Then you can take third. But the presence of mind there, you got to know the base running rules at that point. And so that's one where we should have gotten an out or should have gotten a run, even in that situation. But young third baseman, young middle infielders, young first basemen, when there's an out to get, just go get the out. Just go step on the bag and get the out. Don't be cute about it. Take the force. But that's a scenario there where it could have gone a different direction. It didn't come back to bite us, but it is one of those things, again, kind of a teachable moment for young baseball players. All right, bottom of the sixth, LeBron gets on an error by the right fielder. And again, I thought it was absolutely the right call. Some other people didn't. Stallman initially, I think, thought the ball was gone and then gets to the spot, finds the wall, and has to work back and then drops the baseball. So you got to run at third. And you make a catch there, it's probably a done deal, right? But instead, we end up giving up the run there. Snell flies out the center field, and then the run scores. And then from there, Torres lines out to left. We bring in Nate Williams in place of Hungate, and he gets fouled to strike out swinging on 3 pitches. And I thought Nate Williams had his best day as a Bulldog without any question yesterday. All right, top of 7. We need some good things to happen. Stallman goes down swinging, Sanders goes down swinging, and then we pinch hit Ross Highfield. When I saw Ross get a bat, I was like, we got to ask about this no matter how it turns out. Little did I know that he was going to hit a home run. It's crazy. And we talk about like pushing the right buttons, you know. And he just said he looked down there, and Joe was just tired. And Joe had caught all 3 games. So you bring in Ross, and I think Ross got a little more power than Joe. He gets a 1-1 pitch, and man, that fastball was basically belt high, and he absolutely smokes it. Gives State a 3-2 lead. Fry strikes out swinging. Bottom of 7, Nate just absolutely nasty. Strikeout looking, foul out to Hines at first, in foul ground. Neal goes down swinging. It's amazing what happens when you make guys swing the bat, right? All right, top of 8, they bring in Morris in favor of Myers. Bulldogs could use an insurance run. We get one. Sawyer flies out to right, and then Ace Reese on his birthday just kind of throws the bat head out there and lets the pitch do the work and just lifts that ball deep into right field to make it 4-2. Sullivan goes down swinging. Hines grounds out to short on a full count. Bottom of 8, Nate just kind of cruising along here. Ground out to first, ground out to third. We walk LeBron, and you're just kind of pitching around him there. And then Snell grounds out to second. And at that point, it really felt like this game was over. That's how it felt in the stadium. State goes 1-2-3 in the ninth, and then so does Alabama. And again, it ends with the Will Hodo flying out at center field to Michael O'Brien. One of the only games, I think, in my career that we've had 3 different center fielders in a 9-inning game. How about that? But nevertheless, Bulldogs take the series and put ourselves in a much better situation, but still a lot of work left to do. All right, time for today's top 10 list. As always, brought to you by Calido Guitars, Calido Guitars.com, a Mississippi State company based out of Lake Jackson, Texas, owned and operated by Bulldogs. They're going to give you some incentive to do business with them and help Mississippi State at the same time. Now, even if you didn't have the incentive, this is the right move. Calido Guitars, synonymous with quality, synonymous with great customer service and their expertise, man. Absolutely incredible company to do business with. High quality instruments, complete setup and inspection before your guitar gets there. And what's the cool about that too is it's not just a guitar shop. You get everything else that goes with it, right? You get your strings, your gig bags, your cases, and there's just something cool about walking around with a guitar case. I don't know what it is. It just makes you 10 degrees cooler. It does. They sell products from Yamaha guitars, Guild, Godin, Cordoba guitars, Stag guitars, just about every major name brand you need to know. They can take care of you there. Give them a call today at 979-297-4733. Whether you order online, in person, or on the phone, you get a 10% discount by using promo code BSR. In addition to that 10% discount is free shipping, no sales tax unless you live in the state of Texas, and no matter where you live, a 5% discount to the Bulldog Initiative / Bulldog Excellence Fund. What a great incentive. You need a new guitar anyway, or you need some new gear. You can help some Mississippi State folks by patronizing their business and in turn help Mississippi State Athletics, which helps you. So you get a high-quality instrument at a great price. At the same time, too, you're helping Mississippi State put a better product on the field. What a better way to do business, right? I wish everybody did that. Again, KalitoGuitars.com. Okay, we're going to be quick with the top 10 list. We got a lot of ground to cover here in these next 30 minutes or so. So I got a request over the weekend in person. How about that? Out wandering around before ball games, my Boneyard listener comes up. I think his name was Adam. Forgive me. He goes, Steve, I love the covers. I love when you do covers because I learn a little bit. Because a lot of songs that are popular in my lifetime have been covers of other songs that I didn't really know about. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. Some more covers, mainly from the 80s, that are covers, and maybe you didn't know about that. How about that? Yeah, songs that are covers that maybe you didn't know were covers. All right, number 10 on our list, and it's a very silly song, but man, people always sing along to it, I guess, because the lyrics are so simplistic. But it's Bow Wow Wow's I Want Candy, and people are like, that really fit the 80s, Steve. You sure it wasn't original? No, it wasn't. It wasn't an original. It was originally recorded by a band called the Strangeloves back in 1965. That's right. 1965. So about less than 20 years later, became a top 40 hit for this alt punk thing. But it's definitely an 80s classic, right? And a little did you know there was a cover. All right, number 9. A song that everybody knew, and it kind of took Whitney Houston to stardom in many respects. And it's interesting, obviously there's a machine behind the pop artist, right? I mean, there's a lot of songwriters that are involved in all this, for sure. But some of her most well-known songs were covers, including our number 9 song, Saving All My Love for You. It was originally recorded by Billy Davis Jr. and Marilyn McCoo. They had a big run as an R&B group back when they called it urban music. You know what I'm talking about, how stupid all that was. They segregate music, art, stupid. But Marilyn McCoo and Billy Davis had a big hit in the late 70s, and then lo and behold, Whitney covers it, and it's a huge hit for her as well. Number 8. A lot of people's favorite Beatle is George Harrison. And if you've never seen this video, right? I mean, you're watching YouTube stuff anyway. You owe it to yourself to watch this video because, number 1, it's incredibly silly. And at times it's a little bit stupid. It's very sophomoric in its humor. But it's George Harrison's version of I've Got My Mind Set on You. Oh, I didn't know it was a cover. Well, if you were alive even back then, they kind of expected people to know that. Got My Mind Set on You was originally recorded by James Ray in 1962. Became a hit for George Harrison in 87. Super, super cool. Watch the video. Even if you don't like the song, I've always loved the percussion on it. Number 7, pretty much a one-hit wonder. And I love this because we were kind of like, I don't know that they use a synclavier, and for those of you that are in music, you know what I'm talking about. But there was some effects that Naked Eyes was using back in those days in the early 80s, kind of in the early throes of new wave music. They were a little bit different. It's Always Something There to Remind Me by Naked Eyes. That was originally recorded in 1964 by Lou Johnson. I don't know anything about Lou, but I loved this song when it was popular. Number 6, Dionne Warwick. They had the big ensemble, and this song was incredible. It went everywhere. And Dionne Warwick, of course, had hosted Solid Gold and things like that. So she was very, very popular and a very accomplished singer-songwriter in her own regard. But many people know her from this song, That's What Friends Are For. And what's interesting about it is, yes, it's a cover, but it was also a song that had some popularity when it was originally recorded. But I don't know that Sir Rod Stewart had the same level of success. He recorded it in 82, and then in 85, Dionne and Friends released it. Gladys Knight, Elton John, Stevie Wonder, and it was all part of a fundraiser for AIDS research. How about that? Number one song, and even won a couple of Grammys, and it was a Rod Stewart cover. All right, number 5, a song that everybody knows is Tainted Love by Soft Cell. You didn't know it was a cover, and it's actually 2 covers. Like when they re-released it, they also added that Where Did Our Love Go from the Supremes. So it's a kind of a medley in that respect, but it was originally recorded by Gloria Jones in 1964. But Soft Cell made it a hit in 1981. Of course, it's been covered a few times since then. Marilyn Manson did a cover. Nothing quite as good as the Soft Cell version, in my estimation. Number 4, we did a top 10 list with Joan Jett. We talked about it at the time. It's hard to do a Joan Jett list because so many of her hits are covers. And many people didn't know that, including I Love Rock and Roll. Originally recorded in 75 by a band called The Arrows. And when Joan Jett was touring over in England, she saw The Arrows and she loved the song, came back, put a cover together, and then next thing you know, it's a big hit for her. Pretty awesome stuff. All right, number 3. In the very beginning, we didn't get the first couple of Quiet Riot albums in the U.S. You can find them on YouTube, and you can find them on eBay, but they're very expensive, and I don't like them enough to spend that kind of money. QR1 and QR2. QR3 came out with The Wild and the Young. But it took a while for Quiet Riot to break in America. But there's some incredible stuff with some names including Randy Rhoads, right, who left Quiet Riot to join Ozzy, on QR1 and QR2. You may owe it to yourself if you're a big Randy fan to listen to that stuff. But one of the big breakthrough hits for them was Come On Feel the Noise, right? Everybody's like, oh, it's an original, Steve. No, it's not. No, it's not. The band Slade recorded that first. Yeah. Back in 1973, 10 years before Quiet Riot had a hit with it, Slade had a hit with it over in their native country of England. They also had a big hit called Runaway. Runaway. You know this, so I'm not going to sing it. A surprise to many people, our number 2 track, and probably one of the videos and songs that kind of typified fashion in the mid-'80s. And so many of you have sung this song and you didn't know it was a cover. It's Girls Just Want to Have Fun by Cyndi Lauper, released in '83, originally recorded by Robert Hazard. Now, the story goes that Robert Hazard recorded the song, demoed it, they were going to release it, and the record kind of got buried, and then somebody felt this would be perfect for Cyndi Lauper, and they bought the rights to it. Yeah, and it became her breakthrough hit. And Cyndi was a lot of fun. And she wasn't just the silly girl with Lou Albano in the crazy video. I mean, she actually, you can go back and listen to True Colors and all that stuff, time after time. She's an incredible singer. But number 1, and probably a song that most of you did not know was a cover, much like the Cyndi Lauper classic, right? You probably didn't know that Alone from Heart was a cover, but it is. And we all have loved this song, and it's sad to see, our heroes are aging. We're aging too, but Ann Wilson, an absolutely incredible voice, and really, really, really struggling to stand on stage these days. I mean, she's had a lot of medical problems, and she was the voice of a generation in many respects. She was one of the first real top-notch female rock singers that had some real range, but also some girth in her voice. Phenomenal power singer. But the song was originally recorded by a band called I-10 back in 1983. And if you go find it, and it's on iTunes and Spotify, you can go find it. And it was really kind of recorded more as like a top 40 type thing. And the next thing you know, Heart put their glory and magic into it, and it became a huge hit for them in 1997. So there you go, Adam. Hope you enjoyed the list. I enjoyed talking about covers too, and we've covered a lot of ground in that respect, but wanted to make sure we got you taken care of. Maybe not exactly the covers you were expecting, but something that I think is very interesting. All right, next segment of the show brought to you by Campus Bookmart, a Starkvillian institution. We love Campus Bookmart, and Campus Bookmart loves us. And the reason we love them is because they have the best selection of Mississippi State merchandise in the known universe. They love us because we shop with them and we support a Starkville business. It's a love affair that everybody is very comfortable with, and we all should be, right? Next time you're in town, go by and see their smiling faces. You'll be glad you did. And you can get everything you want, from apparel to diploma frames to everything you need to detail out your fan cave, your RV, your pet, whatever you need Mississippi State related, you can find at Campus Bookmart. Miss Kathy Brown does an amazing job buying for that business. And it's always important to support Starkville businesses whenever you can. If you can't make it to town to see their smiling faces, visit them on the World Wide Web at campusbookmart.net. And by being a loyal Boneyard listener, we'll give you a phrase that pays, and that is BSR, which stands for Beautiful Steve Robertson. That gets you free shipping on all orders over $75. Any order less than 75 bones, absolutely incomplete. All right, let's take a look back at the weekend that was, and then we're going to take, a little time to talk about what needs to happen, okay? So let's quickly look back here. It's going to be a busy week in the SEC. It always is, because everybody's trying to get in these non-conference games. And as noted before, we have just 4 midweek games left. One of those tomorrow night against Southern. And we'll take a quick look at them before we get out of here. Not a lot, but we'll take a quick look. But, we talked about the Thursday games on Friday. Arkansas absolutely embarrasses Georgia on Friday, 13-3. And 10 runs in the final 3 innings, including 7 in the ninth, to put that thing away. Of course, it's not a mercy rule game in the ninth because Georgia gets to hit. But loud win for Arkansas. More to come later on that. Texas gets Kentucky 6-3. And then A&M destroys South Carolina. We were hoping the Gamecocks could get one. And what a huge, huge offensive explosion. Game number 1, 17-0 on just 10 hits. Tough pitching night for the Gamecocks. Auburn gets LSU 8-4. And nothing really fluky about it, guys. I mean, they out-hit them 13-6. LSU scored their 4 runs in the final 3 innings. This game was, it's never over with LSU, but it was well on its way in the 6th. We went through this thing too. We had a 6-2 lead and they came back. 7-0 with 6 in the books. And then LSU gets 3 in the 7th, and then Auburn answers, and it just never kind of went the way LSU wanted it to go. So huge win for the Tigers. Liam Dole takes care of Ole Miss in Oxford, and I expected Ole Miss to play well in this series because there's beef, right? I mean, it's like Fisher and Dole both leave and go to Tennessee and stay within the conference. So you knew the guys that Ole Miss dug out. Mike Bianco's a good coach, too. You knew they were going to be up to play this. Very competitive game. Tennessee gets out to a 3-0 lead. Ole Miss gets 2 in the 5th, and then Tennessee's bullpen kind of takes over, limiting Ole Miss to just 3 hits in the ballgame. Oklahoma gets Vanderbilt 9-4, and as we mentioned before, we need Oklahoma to win, right? I mean, every RPI point we can get. We gain nothing from a win from a team that we don't play. And we got to win against Oklahoma. So we need them. We're big fans of theirs, right? We need them to beat Vanderbilt. They take care of Vanderbilt on Friday. Great situation. All right, Saturday, interesting, right? Kentucky battles back to win over Texas 5-4 in the 15th inning. How about that? They walk it off in the 15th inning. And we play both of these teams. So that's a great thing, too, right? And we get the benefit of that. And, of course, Texas now your new number 1 in college baseball. We thought we were going to get some help from South Carolina in Game 2, as you guys are probably aware by now. Guys, this game should have been in the bag. And we talk about it on the show all the time. You can never have enough runs in an SEC game. Ever. You can never have enough runs. A&M gets up 2-0 in this ball game. And then South Carolina comes roaring back and takes a 12-2 lead in the 6th. And then you start thinking, man, are they going to mercy rule them here in the 7th? Well, no. A&M gets 1 in the 6th, 2 in the 7th to force another inning. South Carolina doesn't score the rest of the way. And then A&M hits 2 grand slams in the 9th to win it 15-12. How absolutely gut-wrenching for a South Carolina fan. And, of course, again, we don't play A&M, so we could have used those points. Crazy game in Athens, Georgia, as Georgia jumps out It's a big lead there, 6-2, I guess through 3, and then they traded runs for a while. And then late, Arkansas with 2 in the 8th, 1 in the 9th, makes it awfully interesting. But Georgia bullpen hangs on 7-6 to win and even that series. And of course, Ole Miss, we talked about it wouldn't kill us if they won a game because we don't play Tennessee. Well, Ole Miss does win a game in this series, 8-5, and sets up the rubber match for Sunday. And then Oklahoma, giving the Bulldogs some more help. They mercy rule Vanderbilt 14-0. Vandy with just 2 hits in the ballgame. As I mentioned, the undoing of the Vandy season is going to be their offense. Of course, Florida won on Thursday, and then 5-0 in the first of 2 7-inning games to take Game 2 in the series from Missouri. And then, is that it, I guess? Maybe not. We'll see. And then Auburn, of course, takes LSU 4-2 to capture that series. And what the bigger part of this thing, too, the story for Auburn is holding this LSU offense off the scoreboard. Right? It's just nuts, man. I mean, like, that's a great LSU offense, and Auburn kind of neutralizing that. Giving up some hits, but not the big hit. All right, Texas ultimately wins the series against Kentucky. Kentucky does get 1 in the 9th to make it interesting. So Texas takes it 2-1 over Kentucky. And then Georgia. We don't play either of these teams, so they don't really impact us. But Georgia walks it off in the 12th to take a series from Arkansas. And again, Georgia, you look at Friday and you're like, hey, you know what? Maybe the bloom is coming off the rose. And then Georgia kind of comes back and says, no, we're just fine. We mentioned how well Auburn pitched against LSU. On Sunday, they limit LSU to 2 runs on just 4 hits, and those 2 runs come in the 8th. Auburn gets up 3-0 and just kind of skates for a while and ultimately closes this thing out 3-2. Great job by the bullpen, Ike Irish, with a couple of hits in that game. Vanderbilt gets up off the mat and gets a mercy ruling of Oklahoma on Sunday. We really wanted the Oklahoma sweep. It didn't work out for us, but we do thank the Sooners for getting a couple of wins for us because their RPI directly impacts ours. And then, of course, Tennessee, if you didn't know, Tennessee takes care of Ole Miss. It looked like Ole Miss was going to steal that one. Nate Snead had some trouble closing this game out for a while. And then, lo and behold, Tennessee goes into the 9th down 8-7. They get a guy on and hit a tank. Next thing you know, it's a 10-8 ball game as the Vols take the series. But again, you expected Ole Miss to be hyping this thing. At least I did. I don't know how you guys felt about it, but I felt that was the case. And, of course, looking at the SEC standings right now, and then we'll get to our final segment of the show, Texas, 13-2. Again, we're halfway through right now, 13-2. It's what a great mark. And you thought Texas may run away with it. Arkansas had a chance. Arkansas drops from number 1 in the country now. Texas takes over. But Schlossnagle got it going. 13-2 in the league. Arkansas 12-3. Then Tennessee 11-4. And then from there, it gets kind of interesting. Georgia, LSU both 10-5. Auburn, Ole Miss 9-6. And then Alabama and Vanderbilt 8-7. And then there's some teams directly ahead of us that we're chasing. Right, Oklahoma 7-8. Kentucky 6-9. A&M 6-9, State right there at 5-10. Florida now 4-11 because they did sweep Missouri. South Carolina now 2-13. And when I discussed South Carolina in the offseason, I didn't think they did enough in the portal. Chickens coming home to roost. And in Missouri now 0-15 in the league and 12-23 overall. So not a good position to be in. Now kind of looking ahead, kind of what's ahead for non-conference. And again, it will be an interesting and busy day, I guess, on Tuesday around the league. And, of course, our eyes are focused on Duty Noble Field as the Bulldogs will play at 6 p.m. against Southern. Arkansas Little Rock will be at Ole Miss in an 11 a.m. game. It's the game for education, I guess it is. They're having a lot of school kids there. So that'll be an interesting – and maybe we should do that. I don't know. Not this week, but maybe in the future. I know we do it for women's basketball, but maybe. It's a good idea. Get kids out to the ballpark. Little Rock 15-19 overall, 5-6 in their league, and Ole Miss 27-8 overall. Bellarmine will be at Tennessee. It seems like everybody in that part of the conference plays Bellarmine. That shouldn't be a game. Stetson will be at Florida. That's awfully interesting. Guys, Stetson's 13-2 in their league. And they live for games like this, right? And this is an RPI climbing opportunity for them. Florida's 4-11. Stetson's going to go into this game a lot more excited about it than Florida, I would expect. So that could be one to watch. The Citadel is at South Carolina. The Citadel 19-17 overall. South Carolina 20-17. I don't know what Citadel midweek pitching looks like, but if I'm South Carolina, you got to approach that game like you're playing Clemson. You absolutely do. And again, the season, and for all intents and purposes, is over for South Carolina. I think everybody sees that for kind of what it is. I mean, you're 2-13 now with 15 left to play. It's going to be awfully tough. Lipscomb will be at Vanderbilt, Auburn at Jacksonville State, and the Gamecocks 21-15 overall. I expect Auburn to win this thing, but it could be dicey. Now, interesting game too. Georgia and Georgia Tech playing at Truist Park in Atlanta tomorrow. Georgia Tech ranked 15th, Georgia 5th. And here's the thing that I point out here. Georgia not playing at home, not at Foley Field. So offensively, you've got a lot of room to cover if you're an outfielder out there playing defensively against this Georgia team. But, without the small ballpark, does that give Georgia Tech an advantage? We'll see. Tarleton State will be at Texas A&M. That should be a good one for them. Oklahoma and Oklahoma State. That's a great one, right? Oklahoma State is 16-17. We saw them earlier this year. And again, a game that we kind of had a come-apart inning there and basically gave the game away. But that could be an interesting midweek affair. Miami of Ohio is at Kentucky. Missouri State, our friends are going to be at Missouri. I suspect Missouri State wins this game. And just so you guys know, too, the Bears, 19-15 overall and 10-2 in their league. Of course, they were picked to win their conference and certainly appear to be well on their way to doing so. UAB will be at Alabama. I just don't know that UAB has enough. You know what I'm saying? They just don't have enough, even against the midweek pitching from Alabama. I just don't see it. Arkansas Pine Bluff will be at Arkansas. McNeese at LSU. Texas Rio Grande Valley will be at Texas. So very, very busy night on Tuesday. Not sure how much that stuff's going to matter. And also, too, there's going to be, we'll preview them on Wednesday, but there will be some series, a lot of series around the league get underway on Thursday. So something to kind of watch as we move forward. All right, final segment of the show brought to you by the Stark Vegas Clubhouse, the best place to stay in the Golden Triangle when you're bringing a large group to town, and chances are you should. You need to get together more often. We always say it, we just don't ever do it. We mean well, so you need to kind of be the linchpin in your family or your friend group and check availability and then book a stay for you, your friends, or your family at the Stark Vegas Clubhouse. We've done it. We had a great time. We plan to do it again. The full-service kitchen, the wet bar, the back porch area, the fire pit area, 6 bedrooms, 2 soon-to-be 3 baths coming later this year. Absolutely outstanding facility. Just 5 minutes away from the Mississippi State campus. You can do your tailgating right then and there. You don't have to lug all that stuff to camp. And I know it's fun, but sometimes it's just easier, right? Just go get some groceries and you can just recreate right there. Go check out the ball game. Go back home, watch some more ball games. Spend a couple nights with your friends or your family, whether it be a college roommate or fraternity or sorority get-together, perhaps a baby shower weekend. You know what's up. Google the Stark Vegas Clubhouse. When you do, their Facebook page auto-populates. You can peruse all the amenities available to you and your guest. In addition, some booking options will pop up. You can book through Airbnb or VRBO if you choose to. Maybe you've got a credit. I don't know you. But if you want to save some money, book through the Evolve website and use promo code BSR10. That's Beautiful Steve Robertson 10, BSR, the number 10, to get 10% off your stay. You'll be glad you did. The premier place to stay in the Golden Triangle at a discounted price just by being a Boneyard listener. Okay. We talk about the road ahead for Mississippi State baseball. I'm not going to keep you too much longer. But, again, the schedule kind of flips for us. We played 3 SEC road series. We won 1 of those. Should have won 2 of them. We're not going to get caught up too much in that, but we still feel like we should have beaten Oklahoma. We certainly should have, but we didn't. We didn't. We win the Friday night game, then lose 13-11 on Saturday, the Sunday game was kind of a wash, I guess, in some respects. We get up early and then don't score again. But, you've got LSU behind you. And, of course, you've played South Carolina. But, coming up, Florida coming in this weekend. And what's interesting about Florida is even with their abysmal conference record, of course, they sweep Missouri over the weekend, they're ranked just ahead of us in the RPI at 29 with a strength of schedule of 7. They're 4-11 in the conference, a game behind us in the standings. But this is an RPI climbing opportunity for us. You go win a couple here, and you're probably going to pull your RPI a lot lower. Bulldogs currently 37 in the RPI, and of course, you never know what's going to happen with the game against Southern. But you just got to keep winning ball games. And again, Mississippi State 12-0 against Q4 competition. That was the thing, 12-0. That was the thing last year. We had those 4 quad 4 losses that were like an anchor, even though we ended up with an RPI in the teens. And we're going to have to get that RPI as high as we can in order to make the tournament, as you guys are well aware. We shouldn't be sweating out, but we are. But, again, look at Florida right there at 29 and 4-11, and they're a team that's had tons of injuries. They're 24-14. They jumped a couple of spots after the series win over Missouri. We'll see how things play out. But, again, a chance for us. We're now in the top 40, but a chance for us to move even closer to the top 20 should we take a couple of games. And, of course, if you sweep, and you never predict that. You never predict the Florida sweep or any SEC sweep because you just simply never know. Ole Miss, again, we've got 4 non-conference games, midweek games left. Ole Miss, the most difficult one in Pearl. And, of course, we'll play them in the weekend series too. But, Ole Miss, RPI-wise, really doing well. Currently 12th in the RPI with a strength of schedule of 11. So even if you just get a couple games against them, you'd prefer the SEC games. But if you can find a way to get the Governor's game and win that series, that gives you 3 wins over a current top 15 RPI team. They may not stay there. I do think Ole Miss has got some interesting weekends ahead of them. Of course, very emotional weekend this past weekend. They played really well. Just couldn't finish it out. But that's a very big one for us too. And, of course, Auburn. Road series are always big. Auburn, number 5 in the RPI with a strength of schedule of 1. And so you think even if you go out there and get 1, you've accomplished something. Can you win that series? I don't know about that. We'll see. We'll see what it looks like by the time we get there. Still a lot of baseball to be played between now and again. But, again, another RPI climbing opportunity. So that's 2 in the top 15. Then you think about Kentucky. Kentucky kind of right there, just kind of hanging around at 41 in the RPI with a strength of schedule of 16. You certainly want them to remain in the top 50, and that's a home series too. But again, a series that I think right now on paper we would say we would take. And Nick Mingione, nobody really manages it quite as well as he does, and so we'll have a real fight on our hands when we play Kentucky here in Starkville to open up the month of May. Of course, that second series would be, Ole Miss, and then North Alabama before we get to Missouri. And, of course, by this point, your RPI is what it is because Missouri's RPI is not going to help you at all. You just got to go find a way to win all 3 of those games. And they have simply not been very good. But you can't just sit here and just automatically assume that we'll win all 3. We've been in that position before, even last year, and end up dropping a game to Mizzou. They're currently 12-23 with an RPI of 159. They also have 5 quad 4 losses, right? So that's not going to help you RPI-wise, but it is a conference game, so it helps you in the conference standings. We need some of these non-conference teams to kind of get hot and help us out a little bit, some teams that we beat. But, right now it's like people are like, hey, we got 15 games left, Steve. Can we get 10 of those 15? Well, we can. I guess mathematically you could get all 15 of them, but how realistic is that? I think what you look at now, you start thinking, okay, can we get 2 against Florida? Well, I think right now we feel like we can. You get 3, it certainly makes life a lot easier around here. Can you get 2 against Auburn? You can, but you're probably looking more like 1. Kentucky comes here. Can you get 2? I would say probably so. I think that's how you feel kind of going into it. And then Ole Miss comes in here, and you start thinking about that one, right? Can you get 2 against Ole Miss? Well, we need Pico to be very good, but let's say we protect the home field and we get 2, right? Then you get Missouri. You go to Missouri where you feel confident about getting 2, but you really need to get all 3 of those. I don't think there's any question about that. So you begin to kind of do the math on that, and that's 10. That gets you to 15 and 15. And again, it's so difficult to expect a sweep, especially on the road. And so if you don't get 10 there, that gets you to 9, would get you to 14 and 16. With 14 and 16 and a top 30 RPI, you're getting in, barring something unforeseen. But it wouldn't hurt matters to be able to go to Hoover and win a game. Now, all that understood, I don't like having to count games like this and say, hey, this is what we got to do just to make a regional. But I think it's pretty evident that we can we got the games there against teams that we should be able to compete against. And again, I think the most difficult series left is that road series to Auburn. Of course, again, 5 series left, 3 of them at home, and you'd like to think you'd be able to at least protect the home turf, and we'll look more at Florida as we get into the week. But, yeah, you don't have to get a sweep somewhere along the way, I think, to get to 14. But if you want to get to 15, I think you probably have to get those 3 against Missouri. And, again, you look at last year, you had all those 13 and 17 teams go to Hoover, and then ultimately, I think everybody made it when it's all said and done. I think that's correct. I think all 4 of those 13 and 17 teams made it. And, of course, LSU was one of them. South Carolina, Vanderbilt was one of them. So we need some help, and that's why these RPI points are so important. When we root for other teams, you're rooting for Mississippi State. Again, as much as it pains you, Ole Miss, again, taking that game over Tennessee, not a bad thing. We don't play Tennessee. So we need Ole Miss to have a healthy RPI. We need Kentucky, Florida to have a healthy RPI. And Kentucky and Florida do such a great job with non-conference scheduling. They're always going to be a very solid RPI team. And so, again, when you just say, hey, there's 15 games left, can you get 10 of those 15? Just mentioning that sounds kind of silly considering the fact that we've had some issues. But when you look at how well State played defensively and how well they pitched it and the way we swung the bats over these last couple weekends, you begin to think, okay, maybe we'll win these series we're expected to. So the bottom line is, basically, I think you're in a position now. If you pick up a sweep of Florida this weekend, it makes life a lot easier. But basically, where we are now is you got to win 4 of your last 5 series. Now, you won 2 of the first 5, should have won 3. I think we can all agree. And you should have taken at least a game from Texas and at least a game from LSU. And had you done that, we'd be sitting here talking about potentially being, a lock for a host and maybe even playing for a top 8 national seed. But that's not the position that we're in. But the RPI is holding up, and it is favorable for us. And now we just got to continue to win games. We went 3-1 2 weeks ago. We went 3-1 this past week. You need to go 3-1 again this week, at a minimum. Take care of Southern, and then win that series against Florida. And when I look at the way this Florida thing is kind of shaking out too, I mean, we went through all this last year. They had to win that last series against Georgia, to really make it interesting. And they did. Went to Georgia and win that series. But this is a team, of course, that has just, they got off to such a great start in the non-conference schedule and began to have some injuries. And the injuries have just kind of mounted and mounted and mounted. And the non-conference schedule really wasn't that great when it's all said and done. Of course, that series against Miami looks good on paper, but Miami really hadn't been Miami in a while. And you come out of the chute, man, and it's like, you get swept by Tennessee, you get swept by Georgia, you lose 2 out of 3 to Ole Miss, and it's like you're already chasing the season. Then you get swept by Vanderbilt. by a Vanderbilt team is very pedestrian offensively. I mean, they win 6-0, 3-2, and then they get after them a little bit on Sunday because Florida ran out of pitching. And then you sweep this past weekend. And again, you look at Missouri, with an 0-15 mark in the SEC, and you say, well, those games probably weren't close. Those games were played in Gainesville, and Florida wins 5-0 and 3-2. And so, again, there's some challenges with this Florida team offensively and also with their pitching staff, if I could ever get that out. But real quickly here, I know we've run over a little bit today, but you don't mind. But just kind of quickly looking at, right now Mississippi State hitting sixth in the conference at 298, and then you look down there, behind them, just behind us is Florida. So offensively, at least putting the ball in play, about the same. And you look at the home run numbers. We got 57, they got 56. They're scoring a few more runs than us, but not much more. And again, we talk about the team we've got, coming up here. Kentucky, I guess 12. Missouri's 12th in the SEC in hitting. Kentucky's 14. So again, that maybe gives you a little more confidence about that. And then you look on the pitching side of things. Mississippi State 5th in the SEC in earned run average at 3.68, just behind Arkansas, who was the number one team. LSU, ERA at 3.51, who was the number one team. Tennessee, 3.19, was the number one team. Texas is the number one team at 3.03. And so the four teams that are ahead of Mississippi State in the ERA have all been ranked number one at some point this year. But you look down towards the bottom, and this is what we're looking at, right? Alabama, I guess we'll go with Auburn. Auburn is 10 in ERA at 4.55. Then there's Ole Miss at 4.64. And then Florida at 14th, 5 3/4, and then Missouri 8.8. And again, we start running through the numbers here. Everybody that we're going to play down the stretch has had allowed more runs, more earned runs than we have. Everybody that's remaining on our schedule. Florida, for sure. Auburn, Kentucky, Ole Miss, Missouri. And so by the numbers, State will likely be favored in probably every one of those series except for that road trip to Auburn. You got to win. Simple as that. I wrote that column this morning. You simply have to keep winning games. And then you win. Everything just kind of takes care of itself as the traffic kind of clears around you. If you hadn't done so, go to DutyNobleBook.com. You can get all my sports titles there. That includes Flim Flam, Stark Villains, Alpha Dogs, Dog Pile, and every Bulldog needs a copy of that. Look back at the 2021 NAFL Championship season. And, of course, the newest one, The Dude, along with my personal memoir, When the Bottom Falls, if you're a person in recovery or somebody that needs to be in recovery, or you just want to read a great redemption story, I think that's the one for you. And come float with us at True Rest Float Spa of Starkville. These home game weekends, it gets really busy, so you need to be booking ahead of time. You can download the app and do so, or you can call my beautiful wife, Dana, at 662-268-7601 and book. And again, come be part of our merry band of misfits over at genespage.com. And it's so interesting how life works, right? So interesting. Here we are all these years later. But it blows my mind. I'm coming up on 30 years. 30 years of covering Mississippi State. And you can still jump aboard here for about 10 more days. You can get 50% off the annual subscription price. And we'll meet with some players tomorrow. We'll have full coverage of the media availability with football tomorrow, and, of course, cover the game against Southern. And then the next media availability for football will be after the spring game. We encourage you to come be a part of that, the spring game this Saturday, your first look at the 2025 Mississippi State football team. Until next time, let's all live our lives in a way we make more friends than enemies, and people can see a difference in the way we live.